Hey, good afternoon or good evening or good morning, whenever it is that you are listening. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the People of Packaging podcast. Today, I am going to be joined by Jen Smith. Jen is the holder of the longest official title, which is amazing. So let me get this right. She is the Director of Food and Agriculture or Food and Ag Innovation Programs at Cornell University Center for Regional Economic Advancement and the director of what we're going to be talking about, which is a Shark Tank style event called Grow New York. And for the packaging audience, this is an incredible opportunity up front. I just need to tell you this to share about your company or other companies and a way to fund a lot of really, really impressive innovation. And so Jen's going to talk about that much more eloquently than I will. And also just kind of about her background and how you can get involved in Grow New York. So without further ado, let's get to Jen.
The idea was, let's take a substantial, a head-turning pot of money, right? So we invest $3 million each year. One startup gets $1 million, two startups get $500,000, and four startups get $250,000. Hello.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Glad tidings, right? I think that's a good, non-temporal. It's not good morning or afternoon. It's just a general well-wishing. So glad tidings to you, listeners, and you, Adam.
And to you as well. It has been a fortnight since that is, I do enjoy old timey intros. So sometimes I'll introduce myself and I'll say, "Hi, my name's Adam, son of Ed from the clan of Peak." It's like, why don't we can be a little bit more medieval, I think, in our introduction.
I mean, you have some crossover with the Ren Fair audience as well as you evolve, if you really, commit to the bit.
So shout out to Larkspur, Colorado. We're going to talk a little bit about Colorado on this show when we get to some past recipients of Grow New York. But I grew up in Colorado Springs, and just north of Colorado Springs, a town called Larkspur, Colorado. And they host one of, if not the largest Renaissance festival in the United States. And traffic would get backed up, but we would go every year. And I still own a pair of rope sandals. So I distinctly remember, this has nothing to do with anything other than this is my only opportunity to ever tell this story. I was in maybe 6th grade and I said, I really want these rope sandals. And my parents said, you'll never wear them. I wore those through college. It wasn't until I became an adult, I went back with my wife and I was like, these things have busted. I need a new pair of rope sandals.
Amazing.
I still have that pair of rope. So it's been 30 years plus of me owning a pair of rope sandals.
Rope sandals for life.
Of the Renaissance Festival.
Yeah, that's terrific. Tuxedo, New York it's a town, I don't know if it's Rockland County, Westchester County. It's north of the city, an hour and a half or so. And that's the big Ren Fair around these parts. And I have the pleasure of working with someone who is like a diehard. He is a falconer. And so I get the Ren Fair update each year. I'm sure he'd be, maybe he wouldn't be jealous of your rope sandals because he already has a pair. I don't know, but either he'd be jealous or solidarity and rope.
Well, I also hear, excuse me, something in my throat. I get all choked up talking about this. We're recording from the Label King Studios here in Utah, and I have a coworker in San Diego who is also an active participant in Ren Fair. So, shout out to all the people out there. It's a small community, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You have small but really cool communities. You are a director at Cornell, which I know of, obviously, from Andy from The Office.
Sure. Yeah.
Or there's other famous grads from the prestigious university in the Ivy League is Cornell. But to me, it's just a fictitious character in The Office known as Andy. How did you get involved at Cornell? What's a little bit about your background story?
Yeah, sure. I moved up here to upstate New York, to Ithaca specifically, for this role at Cornell, which is, really centered on this food and ag venture competition we'll talk more about. But, I was kind of the right person for the role because I had a lot of relationships with state agencies that were working with food and ag entrepreneurs, with farms and producers, and then with cooperative extension agents. So Cornell, in addition to being an Ivy League school, is also the state's land grant university. And amongst other things, they focus on making sure that all the amazing research that gets done in human ecology and agriculture and life sciences gets out into the field, right? Gets translated into information that regular old citizens can do. There's a land grant university in every state. And, I'm obviously not to be a chauvinist, but New York's extension network is really one of the best in the country. We've got an extension agency in each county in the state. So the idea is, Cornell is the mothership, and it's disseminating useful information to everyday people, but especially farmers and natural resource workers, about how they can be most profitable, environmentally sound, sustainable in all senses of the word sustainable with their activities, their businesses, their ways of going about being in the world. So I was brought up here because I already had a lot of these relationships, and I'm passionate about helping new food businesses and farms and startups working in those spaces succeed.
That's amazing. I mean, I've had the pleasure of talking to multiple of these companies that I'm sure when we get into kind of talking about the competition, I'll be happy to kind of mention, including a past winner. But you mentioned this idea that sustainability in the truest sense of the word, and it's such a weird word because, like, in packaging, it's like sustainability is material driven, but there is a holistic nature to it because it's like packaging is not the product, right? So we think about something like food waste and returns and climate or carbon emissions that happen when a product breaks. And so it's like, yeah, that specific material on net might have a lower impact than another material. However, because of what packaging does as its job, sometimes it's actually an unsustainable solution with a sustainable material. And so this like holistic side of sustainability, I think about farming, right? There's probably a lot I don't know much about this, you do, but like soil science and rotation of crops and, the types of chemicals or not chemicals you use. It's like all of this all goes into also, can the farm be financially sustainable?
Right.
At the end of the day, because if it can't, then and the farm goes out of business, well, that's not good for anybody.
That's right. Yeah. So there's looking at, if you're in the middle of some kind of value chain, right? Like, what are the implications of what you're doing, how you're doing it, what you're using to do it, above and downstream of you? And then there's also your trajectory as a business, and can you maintain operations sustainably? So,
Yep.
When people are often asked about the criteria we use and eligibility for the competition, and we don't have an explicit sustainability element in our rubric, but it's like it's the water we swim in, right? It's the air you breathe.
Right. Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, the word has kind of been co-opted to mean something less than what it really means, because it's like, are you able to sustain? Meaning, like, can you continue to sustain and grow and thrive is in fact something that is the goal of sustainability, apart from the social good. I mean, that component is there, but that's not the only thing. And so you're right. It's like, I've never met a business who said, we just want to be unsustainable.
We just want to be wasteful.
We just want to spend as much money as possible. We want to waste as much stuff. So yeah, it's
inefficiency is our.
Yeah, it's true. Well, you mentioned this competition, and so I want to dig into this because when actually it was Tom Seymour who connected us.
Cool.
That's Tom Seymour, who's been hosting a little mini series on the People of Packaging called Beyond the Die Line. You should go.
Oh, fun.
Tom's a good friend of mine, And it was kind of, I get a lot of these like, hey, you should talk to this person. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm thinking I'm going to go onto this thing, and it's like the winner gets $5,000, or the winner gets, promoted on an Instagram page or something like that. And it's like, okay. And I see this, and it's like, there is real money
Yeah.
behind this. There are real investors behind this Grow New York competition. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I like to be impactful. So talk about the history of Grow New York, and then what is the competition exactly?
Yeah, thanks for giving me the chance to talk about it. And I'll start by saying that for a lot of people, when they think about New York, they're thinking about New York City, and they're thinking about Broadway and taxi cabs and whatever else.
Hey, forget about it.
That's right. I'm walking here. Dollar slices of pizza, what have you. But in fact, upstate New York, I mean, New York is the breadbasket of the Northeast. And where New York goes, to a certain extent, agriculture in the Northeast follows, right? We have a huge, a huge footprint and kind of economic sector in dairy, right? We're the number one producer in value add dairy in the country. We're one of the largest producers of milk. We are home to Chobani, and we have Fairlife here, and we have a bunch of other cheesemakers here. And it's just like, it's a big deal here. But also tree fruit, especially apples, where, it's a huge part of our economy, and we're a huge part of the national apple economy. And then also, diverse specialty crops. We have a lot of small and mid-sized farms that are working in diverse produce, different fruits, etc. Big natural resource sector. We've got a tremendous amount of forested land, a robust lumber sector. So we've got this history of making, growing, moving, storing, selling food right here in upstate New York. And the kind of wisdom of some of the leaders in the food and ag space in New York came to this conclusion that we need to make sure we're drawing innovation in, not only to support what we're already doing, but to maintain leadership, right? And to protect this important economic driver in the state. We know that disproportionately startups add new jobs to an economy. We know that we are, committed both in terms of land use and again, in terms of our economic profile to this sector of growing food and then, producing food out of that food, as well as other resources out of what we're growing. So how do we bring new startups into the ag economy? And it was determined that we would try a venture competition. New York had some success with this on a regional basis with a program called 43 North that's run out of Buffalo, New York. They're sector agnostic. You can be making widgets, you can be making waffles, you can be making buttons, whatever it is. You're a startup, you apply. If they deem that you've got the stuff to grow, they're going to invest in you. And they have had a lot of success building out this innovation ecosystem in Buffalo, which, it acts as tailwind for us here in Grow New York. But the idea was, let's take a substantial, head turning pot of money, right? So we invest $3 million each year. One startup gets $1 million, two startups get $500,000, and four startups get $250,000. It's an equity investment. So we take a 3% equity stake on that $1 million. And in exchange for sort of the company indicating that they're going to be able to grow their business while also contributing to the region, both through direct activities like setting up an R&D lab and hiring a sales staff, or, indirect by benefiting the growers or the food producers, et cetera, in the region, that if they can make that kind of commitment to us, we can invest in them and we both get to grow, sustainably.
Love it.
So we've been running this program. This is our 8th year. So we work with 20 startups each year, put them through an accelerator, and then they live pitch after having had some mentorship. And the kind of curriculum isn't so much on how do you scale your business, although we're here to offer some of that expertise if they need it. The kind of work that they're doing during that acceleration phase is what's going on in upstate New York? What are the unique assets, challenges, constraints, opportunities that exist here that their company can plug into? So it looks real different, and it's open to startups doing everything from, as you say, like soil science all the way down the value chain to a consumer packaged good, a ready to drink, non-alcoholic cocktail, a cheese product, whatever it is, right? And everything in between. We work with people that are in packaging. We work with people that are in distribution. Every different point in that supply chain is eligible to apply if they can make a case for how the work they're doing is truly innovative and can have a home here in upstate New York.
Well, here I've pulled up. Let me go back to this guy here. There we go. So this is the website. It's grow-ny.com, and it looks like this is where people can go and apply. There's a little apply button here. What was interesting is I went and looked at the 2025 winners to just sort of get an idea of who were kind of ideal people to come here. And I was scrolling through, and obviously you've got Breckland, which is a novel biodegradable foam coating. That seems fascinating. I'm sure you could talk for hours about each of these companies, but I saw down here in our packaging world this Living Ink technology. And what's interesting about Living Ink, they're out of Colorado. So that answered one of my questions. Here's another biotech company out of Argentina.
That's right.
That kind of answered the question of like, oh, so this is just for companies that are in New York. And it's like, no.
Come on. We've had companies from Australia, Israel, Argentina. As you've noted, we've actually had a couple of winners from Argentina. What happens, especially with the internationals, is like it's such a great way to reduce friction for entering the US market. And so when one company makes it, they kind of turn around and tell everybody that they were working out at whatever incubator in whatever their home country is, and we'll get an influx of applications from that country. The word of mouth on it is great. We're open to startups from all over the world. And I'm trying to remember. I think that we connected with Living Ink at a future food tech conference, which isn't a total fit with what they do, right? So they're making inks out of their first product is an algae-based ink, right? And so it reduces the carbon footprint of black ink, which I never thought about really before talking to them, right?
Yeah,
I wasn't thinking.
Actually, I have this. Here's my business card, and we actually printed this with it's a UV. It's a partnership with Living Ink in Actiga, and it's a UV black ink. They also have a water-based black ink that they came out with, and they're from my home state of Colorado. So I was like, "Oh, it was really cool to see. Like, not only did they apply, but they won $250,000.
Yeah, it's a $250,000 investment, and their pitch to us. Basically, I mean, why they were selected to be a part of the accelerator was they're looking at what other elements can they use, and it's really a circular economy play to make the ink. And some of the things that they've been thinking about as like major waste products that are available are like spent grain from the brewing process, right? So they were already working with Anheuser-Busch, and AB has, a production facility here, a pretty substantial production facility there. So initially their play was like, we're going to come in and we're going to find a way to add value to the waste at AB, and that'll be great. And also, we've got in upstate New York, we've got the legacy of Kodak. So there's some interesting printing activity that goes on here. But what they discovered during their acceleration phase with us, during the business development phase, working with a mentor, was, oh yeah, also Acid Way, right? We've got Chobani here producing a ton of this byproduct that we've actually had challenges in New York State to be like, hey, you got an acid waste solution, because we're looking for help. So they were like, oh, that'll be great. We can absolutely develop a product out of that byproduct. So it was just we worked with a couple of different kinds of companies in terms of like readiness and their own startup trajectory. Living Ink was one of those ones that was like, you're going to make it with or without our investment. You don't need, frankly, like they didn't need our $1 million. It's great that they want to do work in upstate New York. It's great that we were able to invest in them and help anchor them here. And they're off to the races. They're just like a company that is going to succeed no matter what.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, and the interesting thing about the Anheuser-Busch connection is knowing that, Living Ink is based in Berthoud, Colorado, just north of Fort Collins, and Wellington is actually also a massive Anheuser-Busch facility. So I wonder if there could be some really neat connections there. And RIT is one of the premier printing colleges.
Right. That's right.
States.
That's right. Yeah, that's that Kodak legacy.
Yeah.
Printing also, packaging innovation just writ large. They're super huge in that. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that I unless you're in the sector, or unless you're from upstate New York, you're not necessarily thinking about how like, oh yeah, optics and photonics are a really important part of New York's economy, right? But it is. And so, we've got that, that opportunity for a company like Living Ink making this printing product. Anybody that's using optics in their like autonomous solution, right? If there are lenses involved in sighting on the plant that you're doing ID on, so you know how to weed as an autonomous, like what a great center to work in, where there's this cutting edge research and a ton of engineers available to help you develop that solution and scale it up and grow.
That is so cool. So companies like Living Ink, I mean, there's a bunch that I've had on my podcast. There's actually a lot of innovation around sustainable packaging out of Israel. So there's been companies that are making like coatings that are bio-based coating for paper that can turn into kind of a flexible package. But I think that you did, like, it's not just for like, if it's a packaging podcast, right? So like there's going to be a lot of packaging companies, hopefully, who are like, oh no, we are doing this really cool, innovative thing similar to Living Ink. Yes, please go. It's grow-ny.com.
That's right.
And you should go apply. The worst they can say is no. You don't.
And we never just say no. We actually pride ourselves on, if a startup is putting in the energy to apply, we're going to offer them feedback on their application.
You're going to get value.
Yeah.
Either way, that is awesome. I love
that. I think that's an important, otherwise it's extractive, right? Like startups struggle with both time and money. And, it's important to pay back the time that they're putting into the application.
I love that so much. I mean, I sort of cut my teeth in the industry and sales. And I would always say, like, there's no such thing as a bad sales call, because you're either going to learn, you're going to grow, or you're going to get the sale. But like, those are your only three things. So it's really awesome that you guys are offering that is like, should be normative human things.
Yeah.
Let me give you some feedback, but it hasn't become that. So that's great. So even more, go apply. But companies like, So I'll just throw out like Label King, right? So we're in Utah. We started in San Diego. We've been around for 24 years now. We have a second location. I would have to really stretch to be like, this is how we would be connected to the upstate New York community, right? Like I probably should not go apply. Is that fair to say, as like a historical label printing company?
Yeah. I mean, it's fair to say, even if you, and this is, take this in the spirit it's meant. If you read the eligibility criteria closely, you'd see that it wouldn't make sense. We're looking for companies. We have a couple of eligibility criteria that are mix and match, right? So one is your early stage. That there's some flexibility there in what early stage means. To a certain extent, it's if $1 million investment makes sense, given how your company's structured and your other investment, et cetera, right? If we see that you've raised $40 million, $50 million, $100 million already, you don't need our $1 million. So you're probably not early stage. Another is we're looking for companies that are young, right? That are growing. So we have a 7 or fewer years in operation. Now, we are open to having a conversation about that because oftentimes, especially with deep tech, you're basically at the bench in the lab for much, much longer. And so, okay, if it's 8 years, but you're still kind of on the cusp of commercialization.
24 years though is like,
but 24 years, like you're not a startup,
And I did find this when you mentioned that here. Let me get this a little bit bigger here on the screen. So if you do go and you click on apply, it took me to this site here, welcome back. It's got all of this. Oh man, it's scrolling weird. Anyway, at the bottom of this screen that seems to be scrolling very slowly up to the top, you can see, oh yeah, here you go. Here's the eligibility. So all of the stuff that Jen is here talking about, you can even get into additional criteria. You can look at the judging criteria. So all this information is available. If you're like, I'm not really sure, this would probably be a useful resource to.
Absolutely. And we really we prioritize transparency and consistency, right? So all of the terms and conditions, the contract you'd eventually sign, the investment agreements that we use, it's all out there for people to take a look at. And then we have these information sessions every other week, and we're there to kind of answer questions and also repeat some of this stuff that like, it's an investment, not a grant. And, you're going to need to demonstrate XYZ. When it comes time, we had about, let's say 300 applications last year, and narrowing down to the 20, we actually narrow it down to more like 30. And we have one-on-one conversations with each of those teams to say, okay, we're interested in you. Now you have to really tell us, do you understand this is not a grant? That, additionally, in the life of a startup, May 15th application date, maybe first, second week in August, we're giving you a call saying, hey, you want to be a part of this competition after all? Who knows what's happened for you, right? You may have acquired an investor that does not want you to engage in this kind of activity. You may have decided it's time to go back to the drawing board with your MVP. So it's just a chance for everybody to say, okay, are we agreed that we're going to work together for the next couple of 3 months and get you ready to do business in New York State? So all of that's up there. We're very clear about it.
Yeah. One thing that I'm not clear on as we kind of wrap this up. So you gave a very clear date. So May 15th, we are recording this on May 1st. Typically there's a lag of, 6 to 8 weeks on these podcasts, but I'm going to get this out. I'm saying the date that we're recording it so that I hold myself accountable. So May 15th is the deadline. One thing I'm not clear about is you have everything is upstate New York. Everywhere, not the city. Is this true? It's like, whenever I hear somebody say like, oh, it's York.
No, well, sort of depends on who you ask. Okay, so
Okay, tell me, because that's totally it's like
downstate.
New York.
Downstate is basically like Westchester County, New York City, Long Island. So that's downstate.
No, but my sister went to school in Westchester County, and when I'd tell people in New York, I'd say my sister went to Nyack College near Sleepy Hollow. They'd say, "Oh, so upstate," and I'm like,
"You're only talking to people in New York City. People in New York City think everything north of the Bronx is upstate. People who are outside of the city, like the state defines and the citizenry defines as sort of like, we're talking about, all right, I'm going to get geographical for a minute. So we got the Hudson River, right? And there's some New York east of the Hudson River. And then there's Westchester, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Bronx, et cetera, like all New York City and Long Island, right? That's all.
Yep.
So you've got a little more Hudson River Valley on the west side. Then you've got the Catskills and the Adirondacks. And depending on who you ask, everything west of the Catskills and the Adirondacks is upstate.
Okay.
The Catskills and the Adirondacks are arguably their own thing. You've got the Hudson Valley, and then you've got downstate.
All right, I got it. Well, yeah, apparently the only people I know until today are New York. I was so confused. I was like, I don't know. She works in New York City.
Yeah.
Like, it's upstate. I'm like, but what's Syracuse? They're like, it's upstate. I'm like, they're pretty far.
It's true.
From one another.
Syracuse is legitimately upstate, though. I will say.
All right. Got it. Well, go Orangemen. Well, Jen, I'm super grateful that for not only your time, but also the work that you guys are doing and putting real dollars behind innovation that not only benefits upstate New York or downstate New York, but, like you mentioned Chobani, you mentioned Anheuser-Busch. These are all companies which have employees globally or all across the US, or they're providing food, whether it's, apples or apple cider or just all of the things that you mentioned, I wasn't even aware of. I didn't know that New York was the largest dairy milk producer in the US or so. That's incredible. So, what a blessing it is to be able to kind of promote what you're doing. Any sort of parting final words here for people who are maybe interested in have people in their network? Like, I'm not going to apply. We've clearly made that case. However, as you're talking, I'm like, oh, Living Inc. not only applied, but they were accepted and they received an investment. Oh my gosh, my brain is just going with like all these people I've had on my podcast was like, you should go apply and you should go apply.
I'm thrilled to hear that. Yeah. I mean, what I'd say is we are really open to having conversations with any founders that wonder if they might be a good fit. We are encouraging of people. We never want to waste anyone's time, but worst thing you can do is apply and find out. That application deadline is the 15th. We'll announce the finalists in August. And then that can be really exciting for, depending on what the mix of finalists is this year, following their progress. And we always broadcast the live pitches in November. So obviously, we'd love to have people as our guests. This year, it's going to be November 12th and 13th in Rochester. We'll have the summit where they do the live pitch, but we'll also have that online and encourage people to tune in. And certainly, if there are investors that are interested in, working with startups, working in the food system that have been vetted by New York State effectively, really excited to have conversations with those people too, because, we want to create a rising tide for the sustainable, economically viable, just food system in the Northeast.
That's amazing. Well, Jen, thank you so much. Thanks for being the, and I quote, Director of Food and Ag Innovation Programs at Cornell University Center for Regional Economic Advancement and Director at Grow New York.
Thank you, Adam. It's been fun.
It almost felt like the end of the, those commercials where it's like the guy just reads really fast.
Right. The side effects.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Jen. I'm excited. Everyone go check out grow-ny.com. It'll also be in the show notes. You can just click the button and it'll take you there. If you got any questions, I'm sure you can reach out to Jen or reach out through the website. Thanks again.
Thank you.